All right, peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, folks. Happy Wednesday. We got a lot to talk about. Let's talk about the latest coming out of New Hampshire, how former President Donald Trump his path is becoming clearer to being the GOP nominee. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, folks, can we talk about how one judge is blocking the rules for same-day registration in the state of North Carolina? A lot is happening there. Later on, we're going to ask the question, are locks un-American? Remember that Texas teen that was suspended for his locks? The story continues, and it continues in the media with a full-page ad from the school system's superintendent. I'm going to share with you the latest, and I got something for you for Trends Post and Doing the Most. Stay with us. It's happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Happy Wednesday, folks. Good to connect with you once again. Good. So excited to chat with you about some of these issues and stories that we're going to be discussing. In a few moments, I'm going to be bringing my sister from another mother. She is an attorney out of the state of Florida. My sister Suzette Speaks. She's going to be joining us in a moment. But we got to let you know that we are streaming right now on a number of different spaces. Make sure you go to our homepage of blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And, of course, put something in the bucket for us as we kick off 2024. Looking to have you to be an investor and stakeholder in this digital movement we are embarked upon. Make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure you show your love and your support, and give us a little something as we continue to power through this space, giving you the content that you deserve right here on Black Star Network. Also, folks, we're streaming on Amazon platforms, on your Amazon News, on your Fire TV. We're also on the Amazon Prime Video, so you can check us out there on the Prime Video app on the Live TV, The News. Or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, the Live TV, The News. And we're streaming on Freevee Network. You can find us there on now under the news. We're on Freevee. Big shout out to Freevee for their partnership. And we're on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network or find us under Live TV, The News and Opinions. Now, we also on social media. Make sure you check us out there. We're streaming on Roland Martin's Facebook page. So big shout out to the crew on the Facebook page there. We always look forward to having you. We also are streaming on Roland Martin's YouTube channel. So big shout out to my YouTube culture crew. Those always join us on the chat. And we're also on the X platform. So big shout out to the crew that's checking us out on the X platform. All right, speaking of the crew who's in the chat right now, let's do a little roll call very quickly. We got Pastor Damon Blissett. Good to connect with you once again, big brother Damon. Brian Christian, good afternoon. Mingli Natasha Serge, I see you. Official Sanika, you say we in here. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Official Sanika, thank you for checking in. Deidre Hall, thank you for checking in. Cindy D, thank you for being here. Pretty Brown Mimi, 726. Happy Wednesday to you too, Mimi. ABX girl, good connecting with you once again. Debbie Muhammad, peace and blessings to you, Sister Debbie. Thank you for checking in. Melanated Rich Convo. There we go. I see you, the Stephanie Humphrey channel. Good afternoon to you too, Stephanie Humphrey channel. Always good to connect. Who else we got here? Lori Parks, I see you. So many more of you are checking in and being a part of the conversation. All right, let me get the other great culture crew member. Y'all can check her out on her show, on the Suzette Speaks show that streams on YouTube. You can also check her out on all social media platforms at Suzette Speaks. She is a lawyer out of the state of Florida, political strategist, and a contributor here on Black Star Network. My sister, Suzette Speaks. Good afternoon, Suzette. How are you today?
Hey, Farajii. Hey, Culture Crew. Great to be here. Happy Wednesday.
First and foremost, something look different about this, Suzette.
You know we switching up, Farajii, now. You don't know who you're going to get on Wednesday, all right? So,
I'm feeling it. I am feeling it.
Tomorrow, so, it's my event, so, we got to
go. Oh, we gotta have to talk about that later on in the show. If you're in the Miami area, come on.
Come through. Politics
Oh.
and networking social. I can't wait. Yeah, it's
Ooh.
our social series to get people out and again remind them about why it's important to stay engaged in our community, and it's going to be wonderful. So can't wait.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you look fantastic, and I'm sure the event is going to go really well. And again, we'll make sure we get as many people out there as much as possible. But just look good and good looking. You're good to see you, Suzette. Good to connect with you. Let's talk about something that's not a good look. I needed to start the show.
All right.
I needed to start the show off. I'm not even going to introduce what we saw. Just, please, can we just pull up this is former President Donald Trump giving his acceptance speech, his victory speech after the New Hampshire primary yesterday. And then he was on stage, had some people behind him, Vivek Ramaswamy, the former presidential candidate, Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina. Was Marjorie Taylor Greene there? I thought I saw a picture of her. Was she
might have
there?
been on the stage. I don't remember. I didn't remember seeing
I like I see that. I don't think about nothing that Trump does.
Everybody was there.
Hey, look, let's just share it with you. Look what happened here on this moment. Take a look, folks.
Did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it, appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's why he's a great politician.
Brother, what should I say? Let me give him the respect. Senator Scott, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Like a I don't know, Transformers transform moment. I don't know.
I love you. What the hell, Suzette? Please explain.
Yeah.
What was that?
It's really strange that grown men find themselves, morphing into whatever former President Trump wants them to be. And Tim Scott is a really strange case study of this phenomenon. It is kind of eye-opening to see the power he has over folks, the way in which they seem to leave their principles behind and take on this whole new identity. If you watched his endorsement video, I don't know if we have it, from this weekend where he was playing or cosplaying, I guess, a Baptist preacher and going hard in the paint for Mr. Trump. And the way, he also espouses his religious belief and being a man of, faith and dignity. It just seems like it does not necessarily align with what he's doing now and what he's saying now about Mr. Trump. But we could have to take a break. We could talk more about it right after the break.
I guess so. I didn't want to give too much time to it, but I mean, if you are a Black Republican, you can vote however, you can be a part of whatever political party. But if this guy is your model of a Black Republican, I don't know how you can do it. I don't know how you can do it. Look, we'll take a quick pause. When we come back, let's continue the conversation. We're just kicking it off here on The Culture. Make sure you join us as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube channel, and join us in the chat with our illustrious culture crew and on Roland Martin's Facebook page. Folks, it's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Happy to be with you and happy Wednesday, folks. Checking in with my sister Suzette Speaks as she joins us every Wednesday and talking about just the low level of Tim Scott. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, Suzette. It's just the fact that this man has ingratiated himself to the point it is just like the point of no return. I mean, you just like, oh, I love you too. And it's like he insults you. And then you still walk to the side of him in a national news conference, national moment, and you're like, I love you too. And it's like, is this what Black Republicans are supposed to be looking at? And I think that's the sad part about it. And the other part about it is, Suzette, is that how come we can see how Donald Trump treats people, but the people that are around him seem to be blind? Like, how is that possible that he can use people for his interest and his benefit, and then once you're not usable anymore, he discards you, and people still line up to be next to this guy? How is that possible?
I think former South Carolina public official Bakari Sellers said it best, that he needs to write a book about the way in which he exerts influence, that is Mr. Trump, over those around him, and how leaders among leaders, right? A United States senator like Senator Tim Scott can be made to really backtrack on all of his core beliefs. If you watched his announcement this past weekend, his endorsement of his once rival, Mr. Trump, it was such a painful thing. Again, watching someone who seems to be acting almost to try to please, his now boss. It seems as if he is really auditioning for what many speculate is a vice president's consideration. He wants to kiss up. He wants to be ingratiated with the Trump camp in such a way that he would go about, selling himself, to the other side. Basically, he went from progressive legislation when he first got into the United States Senate, trying to work hand in hand with some other senators on like voting rights and things like that, to what we see now, which is a shell of a man, a shell of himself. And he went as far as to, and I don't know if you saw it, Farajii, the pictures of him getting engaged also this weekend. So not only did he endorse Mr. Trump this past weekend.
Hold
Also,
on, we gotta make that bigger. Yeah, let's make it big. Yeah, make it big. Yeah.
Tim Scott is nearly 60, I think, and people were questioning, especially from the Republican base, his marital status, being a single man and a bachelor. All of a sudden, there is quite some chatter, let's say, on X that people are wondering, is he doing this for Donald Trump too? Did he need to get a wife in order to secure his spot as a possible VP contender? Now, it is totally, folks speculating, but it seems kind of odd. He introduced this lady, I think her name is Mindy, after one of the presidential debates, and folks thought, is she a paid actor? What are we doing here? We never had seen a person. He had said he was with someone before, and then now here's an engagement. And again, this is just par for the course for a man that has lost his way in what he proclaimed at the beginning of this race, and again now has bent the knee and is in full support of the former president.
All right, so how does this play out? And I know this might sound crazy. Folks might be saying, well, why are y'all talking about this? But I'm really serious about this, because we've seen some of the numbers, Suzette, I'm sure you've seen them. They say that now that President Trump is positioned, not to say he will get this, but he's positioned to get the largest number of Black voter support than any other Republican candidate in history, right? Especially among Black males. So I've seen that, some folks say as high as 20%. I don't think it's that high. The last election he got was about 12%, I saw, but they said that it is possible that he's able to get it. But when you see it as a Black man, seeing another Black man making himself subservient the way Tim Scott has made himself to this guy, and then you still have the other Black Republicans and conservatives. You have a Michael Steele, the former lieutenant governor for the state of Maryland. You have Armstrong Williams. You have other Black contenders, Black men in that fold who don't seem to be on that same wave. How does this fit in from your vantage point in the larger picture of Black men saying, okay, I'm going to put my vote behind Donald Trump, given the fact that your model is a Tim Scott? Because we don't see Armstrong Williams, we don't see Lieutenant Governor Michael Steele. We see Tim Scott.
We do see a bit of Michael Steele. I would just add that Michael Steele now has a program on MSNBC, and he speaks up very strongly against Trump. So he's one of the exceptions to the rule, where he's calling out the threat to democracy, but he's also very realistic about what you're saying when it comes to, I would think, the party base as a whole, and what you're talking about is an addition to. And I don't think it's as strong. Like, I don't believe these polls of 20% at all. But again, the largest majority of Black men are finding themselves on the sides of Democrats. But we're talking about, I would say, 5 to 12, depending on the where you read, percentage of Black men, which is out of, I wouldn't say out of the ordinary, but a little bit more than what we've seen in past presidential elections as far as the support of Black men towards the Republican side. So I don't know if this is a strong trend. I think, again, there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to how Black men think and what they feel and who they're actually going to vote for. But there are some that have been more vocal, like a Tim Scott, and I don't know if they are seeing him as someone that aligns with their beliefs completely. Like I said, there is a part of what we see happen on the stage there with Donald Trump and Tim Scott that is almost like you're my, as what he said, my African American. Remember when he said that about?
Yeah.
That has this kind of tinge of like unequal status between the two of them as a person who he has to, like, again, shuck and jive and do what Mr. Trump requires of him. If you see the speech that he gave in an endorsement to Mr. Trump with over the weekend, it was very uncomfortable. Like I said, he even invoked, we sick and tired of being sick and tired, which is a quote from Fannie Lou Hamer in his speech. But it's like for the opposite cause, though. And for the Republican Party, whose base, who we have seen just in the New Hampshire primary, is not moving from Trump, Mr. Scott has gone far away from where, again, he was critical of some of the things Mr. Trump was doing at first. But now, like so many others, they've morphed, they've changed, they've, abandoned that ship and have joined the Trump ship. So he is one. And what is also very ironic about him is that Nikki Haley appointed him. Tim Scott did not become a United States Senator initially through an election. Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, in a very bold move, appointed him as a Black man to serve as three? Cory Booker, we have Raphael Warnock, and Tim Scott. So it's very interesting that, again, in politics, there are no allegiances, especially on the Republican side. A lot of people who have worked together and had done each other, you call it favors, or, had made political moves in favor of that person. Now they put it all behind them and thrown it all away to join Team Trump. So I don't know if it's because they feel like he's the inevitable nominee and they want to get on the train early. They're afraid to get caught up. I don't know. Part of me is like, what does he have on these people that they are quick to, or they don't want to maybe be in the bullseye of his hair when he gets ready to come after you and what he has to say about you. He loves a soundbite. He's very good at putting, viral quotes together about folks, and it sticks. So maybe instead of being on the bad side of Mr. Trump, they all think, let me cut my losses, let me get over there early, and let me avoid becoming a target. But yeah, it's really disheartening knowing again, he had very different views initially when he first became a United States Senator, to now say to himself, I am, fully backing this person and will be utilized as such. It's really sad, and for many to witness.
It's very sad, very sad. And who is this? Let me get a couple of thoughts in very quickly before we take our next pause. You are not a victim. You said Tim is just awkward, corny. Sometimes it's not about being Black conservative or Republican. Okay. That's just his personality.
He
is definitely awkward.
He's not really great on the stump. And even with people, shaking their hands and stuff, he looks odd. And when he was in Iowa and those places, he looks, uncomfortable.
Definitely uncomfortable. ABX girl, you checked in. His tap shoes are worn down for his fiance. Wow. Okay. Lori Park said, newsflash, news break, Tim Scott, he's not going to pick you, with laughing emojis. Wow. Official Sanika, when navigating conservative white spaces goes wrong. Jeez.
Lots would agree with that.
And Brian Christian, Tim Scott is a sellout. That's all. Wow. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about this New Hampshire victory for the former president. Now that he got Iowa wrapped up, New Hampshire wrapped up, the path seems much more clearer for former President Trump to be the GOP nominee. But Nikki Haley says that's not the case. She's still going to be chugging forward as she's looking forward to the prime South Carolina primary. And let's break down some of the numbers around the support for Donald Trump. Even though he's won these two major primaries, his supporters are actually getting less and less as he goes along. So we'll talk about all of these dynamics and more with my sister Suzette, and of course with you right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196. Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Let's talk about New Hampshire, what happened last night in New Hampshire as former President Donald Trump wins the state once again, but without, there definitely are some conditions. Even though he had a double-digit lead over his closest opponent, former UN ambassador and former governor of the state of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, Mr. Trump brought in a little bit over 30%, while Nikki Haley was brought in around about 17 and 19%. The fact remains that the president is still not as strong as he could be. And I want to share with you just some of the numbers from yesterday's win and the implications of it. Take a look at this. This is from NBC News as they did an exit poll. They found that while Trump won self-identified Republicans by 49 points, he lost independents by 24 points, and the makeup of the primary was fairly even split between the two groups. Self-identified moderates, 29% of the electorate, backed Haley by a whopping 51 points over Trump, while he won conservatives by 42 points. Meanwhile, just 13% of Haley voters said they would be satisfied with Trump's winning the GOP nomination, while 86% of her voters said he wouldn't be fit to serve as president should he be convicted of a crime. I'm going to go back to my sister Suzette Speaks, political strategist and attorney, to talk to us a little bit about this dynamic. Suzette, he's gaining, but he's losing at the same time. But he's winning just enough to to be able to get through these primaries. But some folks are very concerned about this. And I even saw some reports, Suzette, where folks say that they believe Haley is a little bit better candidate, especially given the fact that what she brings to the table. What do you make of this? How do we look at this? Is this the power, the influence, the grip that Donald Trump has on the GOP? Is it waning right now at this point? Or is it getting stronger? Because at the same time, he won two major primaries, Iowa and New Hampshire. clearing the path. There's nobody that's in front of him that's going to stop this train. So we're seeing some interesting dynamics here.
Yeah, there are a couple of things going on at the same time. So first and foremost, Nikki Haley did much better in New Hampshire than was predicted. Again, you can't trust polls because it's what happens on the election day that really matters and who really shows up. So people were predicting that in New Hampshire, she might lose by 20, 30 points, and she came within 11. So even though that is not a win, it was what she called a win in her book. And we might have some of a clip of her announcement that she's going to keep going. Now, her next state is South Carolina. However, the demographics, right, the makeup of the people who vote changes from state to state. Her advantage in New Hampshire was that a lot more independents and Democrats, even small number of Democrats came out and they voted for her. So among independents, she beat President Trump, but among registered Republicans, which is the main base of the party, Trump beat her by 50 points, and she beat him by like 22 points when it came to non-party affiliated or independent people. So because that primary in New Hampshire was open, she had a lot more people that were able to vote for her. Not every primary is like that. Sometimes it's exclusive just to Republicans who are registered, not MPAs. Not even Democrats, right? So New Hampshire helps her stay in the game. But there are people that argue there's really no path to victory for her long term. When she thinks that she can, make some headway in I think what it would be called Super Tuesday, which is March, the first week of March, where there are a bunch of different states at once. If she has enough money from her donors to hang on, she could have a point. But really, in every other primary poll where the Republican voters who normally come out are polled, Mr. Trump wins 2-1 some places, 10, 40, 50 points, depends on the poll. So it is looking like, again, if there's only Republicans who are allowed to vote, he will garner those victories. If it's open, and there are others who are allowed to vote in those primaries, she has a better chance. Now, what does this mean? Looking long term, in the snapshot of polling right now, if the election were held today and it was between Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, Nikki Haley actually, in some polls, bests Joe Biden. She would do better, many would argue, in the general election. But the caveat is that she first has to get through the Republican primaries where the numbers are stacked against her. So there is a position that many people are taking that maybe right now she is actually setting herself up for 2028. It's not about her trying to win right now. There are others that argue that Nikki Haley is trying to set her up to be vice president. Would Trump pick her at this point? Now that she's finally too little, too late coming after Mr. Trump in earnest? I've never heard her come up with so many points against Mr. Trump as she has had in the last couple of weeks since Iowa and now New Hampshire. She's one of the few of his opponents who have really, instead of attacking one another, has now turned to him and said, this is a candidate of chaos. I think that moniker is starting to stick, candidate of chaos. She's repeated it so much so that people are starting to question again those more moderate Republican voters and those folks who sometimes consider themselves conservatives and sometimes don't. And they're non-party affiliated and switch back and forth depending on what election is happening and who they feel strongly about. So she does well when you poll the general population, but that's not who's voting right now. Right now, it's a primary, only Republicans mostly in the states that are coming up. And she's not looking good in her own home state of South Carolina. Like the governor there, senators there, most of the establishment apparatus has actually lined up against her and for Mr. Trump already. So if she doesn't win her own state, there are people who are going to say, drop out, drop out, drop out. She's probably going to, according to her video, I don't know if we can play it, with her remarks during her speech, during the New Hampshire second place finish that she had. She said she hold on. She's like, no one's pushing her out. And if we could play some of that, you could hear her for yourselves. But she sounded optimistic, but the numbers are really stacked against her.
All right, let's play this video of former Governor Nikki Haley as she gives her speech and she makes the pledge she's going to continue to move forward. Take a look.
This race is far from over. There are dozens of states left to go. Now, I've long called for mental competency tests for politicians over the age of 75. Trump claims he'd do better than me in one of those tests. Maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. But if he thinks that, then he should have no problem standing on a debate stage with me. But South Carolina voters don't want a coronation. They want an election. And we're going to give them one.
That was from The Guardian. This is very interesting. This is a very interesting thing because she's essentially running against the guy that put her in a position of power in some ways, at least brought her to the White House. She did well. The other part of this, and I know we got to take a quick pause, she's looking forward to South Carolina, Suzette. But I read that Lindsey Graham said, this ain't Haley's country, this is Trump country. Essentially,
some of the folks
like you gotta twist it, Nikki. We ain't picking Nikki, we picking Trump.
Yeah, like I said, the establishment is fully backing Mr. Trump. They say on the ground there, you see Trump flags in the supermarket everywhere you go. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. She has a fight on her hands. We'll see what the numbers actually end up being. I wouldn't let polls deter me, but it doesn't really bode in her favor in her own home state for right now.
Hey, look, we got to take a quick pause. I'm going to pick Suzette's brain on something that I saw relating to this whole conversation. Crew, I want to get your take on this as well. Y'all don't want to miss this next point that we got to make on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by Ms. Suzette Speaks. And we're talking about the New Hampshire primary that happened last night, talking about the dynamics of former President Donald Trump winning the primary, losing supporters, and former Governor Nikki Haley continuing her campaign. Now, this is not trying to throw a curveball at you, Suzette, but I saw this piece with Michael Harriot from The Griot. He wrote this piece. And he seems to say, and I think this is very interesting, that we're not talking about one overarching elephant in the room. He said there's been more emphasis placed on black voters in this election cycle than any other group of voters. But he says that the real problem are white voters. The white voters. He said in 2020, the white vote made up 67% of the electorate. Yet pundits are willing to hopscotch over the white vote because they already know what white people will do at the ballot box. Whether it is Democrat or Republican, white voters have not been as concerned with party politics as much as they have been obsessed with whiteness.
I'm digesting it. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself here, and I was like, I got to talk to Suzette about this because I think there is something there. And he went on to say, it's almost like they're trying to build a narrative. White voters are the reason why democracy is in peril. If it was white insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol, white people put them dim-witted election deniers in Congress. It was white voters who helped install Supreme Court justices who stripped away reproductive rights. It was white people who are banning affirmative action, abortions, and American history. While the black vote is important, the only reason the subject is even worthy of discussion is because of what white voters keep doing. Someone should really talk about it. White voters matter.
Well, I would have to definitely dive a little bit deeper in for the full context of what he's saying. But what I will add, in my opinion, is that I do believe black voters kind of are scapegoated oftentimes when we are typically underfunded when it comes to the money it takes to engage us. And I think with less funding, we are expected to turn out our communities at a higher rate. And we're not, I don't know if the word is appreciated, but I think in some corners, I think we're taken for granted. And I do think just the little part that he highlighted that we are oftentimes made to feel as if like we're the issue and we're the problem. I think it's wrong. And I do think that it's an easier tagline. And if we keep saying it, it's like we are the reason that, democracy either will be saved this November or not. But to it sounds like his core point, the majority of this country is white. So majority of the voters are also white. So what they do and how they vote is also what's going to have the largest impact on who gets to be president and whether democracy is saved or not come the November 2024. So when we are looking at what black folks are doing, yes, I do believe strongly that we must become more engaged as a people. That's where we get to wield our power when we're going to talk about what's going on in state legislatures just momentarily, how not engaging as much as we should engage. We're seeing this kind of Republican takeover of state houses and state senates that really make rules for each state that kind of break our backs, right? And set us back. I can talk about Florida all day with some of what the legislature is even doing right now in its third week of session and the bills that are being pushed forward. I'm cringing. And we already had several crops of bad bills that are getting rid of, for example, diversity and inclusion and other things on college campuses and removing state funding. I'm talking about from things like the Black Student Union, college Democrats,
right.
This is being proposed right now, right, by bodies that are mostly Republican controlled. So to your point, and what I, again, not having read the article, I do think there's a lot of focus on us. And I do think because we are a swing vote population, if we turn out in numbers larger than expected in state elections, in local elections, and in national elections, we can be the difference maker in bringing, the country back to its center and its core. But I do think, to his point, people need to talk about how other demographics vote, how white men vote, working class white men, middle class white men, upper class white men. Same thing with white women.
Yeah.
Again, there are exit polls that show that there are white women, especially in places like, South Carolina. I wish I had the actual polls in front of me to present the evidence, but, talking about whether they think a woman should be president or not. And many disagree with it. So they're not pro Haley. They think, it should be a man's job. So there are other gender demographics and racial demographics outside of the Black community that really impact elections in our country even more, but they aren't talked about as much. We get more of the focus and more of the blame. And again, I don't think we get the spending, the type of spending that goes into white communities. They're like, oh, everybody should just vote. That's not how it works, right? There's reasons why in Iowa, this is $1 billion, caucus, right? Billions of dollars go into knocking doors, go into TV and radio ads and newspaper ads, right? And having people on the ground, getting people to the polls. It has to have a grassroots apparatus. People are busy. People are trying to survive. It just does not necessarily happen. And I think this idea that, if Black people love this democracy, they would just vote. There's money, tons of money that is at the top.
That's right.
It would be the folks who are the consultant class and the folks who tell Democrats or tell Republicans what to do when it comes to what to say in the ads, down to the person that gets $10 an hour or $20 an hour to knock on the door. There's money spent in droves, but for whatever reason, from both parties, when it comes to our community, they want less investment, but they want higher results, and that doesn't work.
That doesn't work at all. Tiz, you checked in and said, Farajii, white people will always put themselves first. People always say race doesn't matter. But when it comes to power control, it matters, in my humble opinion. Tiz, I can't disagree with you on that one. I think that's, and I'm going back to what Michael Harriet said, and y'all should check it out. It's in the Griot, but it opens up the conversation about where their allegiance lies. And I'm saying as a voter, as voters, right, where their allegiance lies. And to the point that as much as we do put the emphasis on Black folks and Black voters, we are 13% of the country's population. 13%. So
and in the last election, the majority of white women voted for Trump. Like that doesn't get
so nobody,
played out there as much. But you know what I'm saying?
Like it doesn't. And Suzette, I'm glad you brought that up because it doesn't make sense that we're having conversations about all of these things, but the main block, the main voting block that really needs to have some different conversations, not even in the discussion. We put it on Blacks. We put it, like you mentioned, we put it on Blacks. We put it on Latinos. We put it on LGBTQ.
I'm about to say LGBTQ and others.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like we put it on all these marginalized groups, but the majority of the voters come from white Americans, and folks are acting like it's all cool because
and a majority of them don't necessarily, depending on the state, vote Democrat.
And that's the thing. So if we're looking at, and I've said this, I've said this, that if you're looking at the candidacy, the presidency of Donald Trump, that is a reflection of white America. Not a reflection, because I don't think in mass black folks would vote for Donald Trump.
And you got to be careful with that, Farajii, because you'd have to say the base of the Republican Party.
The base,
so they
that's
happen
right.
to be
You're absolutely
white,
correct.
but they have
I'm not saying that it's in general. No. Yeah.
Evangelical, so-called, different types of, again, remember, we're looking at what, 100-some thousand people total that voted in Iowa. I think in New Hampshire it was like 300,000, if I'm not mistaken. You know, like these totals are not everyone, obviously, but the majority of them happen to also be white. But we have to dig into why they vote the way they do as far as their policies and politics. And right now, those who have shown up, again, this is not yet a general election. This is just a small part. Remember, they said about a third of the Republican Party, that's the religiously voting, always going to the poll base. A third is MAGA, but they show up no matter what. You see, Iowa was -25. It was freezing, and they got up. And so the fervor they went to the polls with to vote for Mr. Trump, that's what hit different. You have folks that support Joe Biden. Don't let the polls fool you. There are people that know that what our country might become under a Trump administration could be very dangerous based on what we just saw in January 6th and beyond, right? Yeah. But the fervor, the folks that the exit polls, talk to, when they talk about Mr. Trump, they feel like he feels them and he's one of them, and they are so committed. Like the enthusiasm gap is what they call it. It's just so blatant. We definitely have to address that and why. But again, it's a small amount, about a third of the Republican Party that's really controlling the whole party. But because they have the loudest bullhorn,
that's
right?
crazy.
They have that enthusiasm. They don't vote. They tell their friends, they put up a flag, they ride around in their truck, they go ahead and they do everything they need to do to be very visible. Others feel pressure to say, oh, well, that must be the majority. It's not. So we also have to look at, there are within the, general white population, there are many different subsets of people. So we got to break that down even more. But I understand, again, the general premise of what he's saying. We don't spend enough time talking about the white voting population and what they're doing and its impact on election outcomes.
Huge. I just wanted to throw that out there, Suzette. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like, it's an interesting conversation, and I think that as we move forward, it's going to show up more and more. But we need to change the dynamics of this. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk a little bit about how one particular judge. I'm trying to see. I want to get Suzette's take and your take, folks, on how a federal judge has blocked rules for same-day voter registration in the state of North Carolina. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also on the other side, we're asked the question, are lots un-American? This is based on the story, the ongoing developing story of that teenager from the state of Texas who was suspended because he wore his hair a certain way, and how the superintendent of schools in that school district put out a full-page ad defending the decision to suspend this young brother. We'll have that, and I got something for Trends, Posts, and Doing Them All. So you don't want to miss the next hour here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause to too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you for tuning in to the second half of the show. Happy Wednesday, and we're streaming on our website, on our homepage of blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence. Go to our website today. Download the app on all of your devices for free. Follow us on social media under Black Star Network. And we ask you that you give something to help us in this digital movement we are embarked upon. So again, check us out on blackstarnetwork.com. We're also streaming on Amazon platforms, on Amazon News and your Fire TV. We're also on Amazon Prime Video. So check this out on Prime Video app under Live TV The News, or on Amazon.com under Prime Video Live TV The News. We're on Freevee Network, where you can find us on now under News, and we're on Plex TV 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network or Live, or find us on the Live TV, The News and Opinion. I want to bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into the frame as we're talking a little bit about the latest developments in politics. And folks, I'm gonna just let y'all know that this is a political year. The campaign season is upon us. We're going to have a lot of different conversations about what's going on, and most importantly, to inform you, to keep you up to date on things that are happening around the country, because some of us may not even know, Suzette. So, we take the time to have these conversations on the show to get us prepared and to make sure that we are conscious enough to understand all the dynamics at play. But I wanted to just do a brief correction. I was talking about before the break how a judge blocked the rule on same-day registration. He did not block the rule. He just he blocked the restrictions, certain restrictions on same-day registration in North Carolina elections, where they have seen over 100,000 new registrants that have sought quote unquote same day registration in North Carolina during the past two presidential general elections. So there are some lawmakers down in North Carolina that are trying to make it even harder for some voters. And this judge, U.S. District Judge Thomas Schroeder, tells election workers that they can't nullify ballots by screening citizens who register and immediately vote during a 17-day period before a primary or general election through an altered method, unless applicant protections are created. So this is what this judge is essentially trying to do, is say, look, no, they do have the right to vote the same day that they are registered. You can't just say because they voted same day that their ballots are null and void. So it is a win for voter advocates.
It is, and I also want to make one correction. Actually, 350,000 people voted in New Hampshire. Just so we have our facts straight.
Yeah, thank you.
The point you're making, even though this judge is trying to correct what the state legislature tried to do, the fact is they saw the numbers. 100,000 people in North Carolina registered and voted same day. Who do those people normally vote for? Well, possibly not Republicans, because the Republican-controlled legislature said, we need to change this. We are going to try to make a law to nullify all of these registrations that happened during early voting, leading right up to the election day registrations. And the judge is saying, no, you could not and they're saying without proper process, take these people off of the voting rolls, discount their registrations and not allowing them to vote. Farajii, this is a trend across the country. We could look at my great state of Florida, SB 90, where a stroke of a pen with the vote of the legislature, the House and the Senate. Now, I was looking at the numbers that there is actually 36 Democrats out of the body of 120 in the Florida House. So we're closer to removing the supermajority. And there are about 5 toss-up races in November that could switch us over to where the Democrats are not just sitting on the sidelines. The Republicans have a supermajority in that body. Nonetheless, we could talk about Tennessee. I want to always talk about Florida. In that bill, SB 90, the Florida legislature removed the vote by mail continuation practices that had been in a law before, where people would register for the vote by mail and you would be on the roll for like 2 to 3 cycles, right? 2 years, 4 years, you would stay on the roll. And if you signed up once, you would get it for up to the next presidential election. They changed it, wiping away 4 million people who were registered for vote by mail. That includes Democrats and Republicans. Now, in order to vote by mail or absentee ballot, whatever you want to call it, same thing, right? In Florida, you must register every year. You must register every year or show some intent to vote. What does that mean? I'm going to be at a park this weekend, Farajii, Saturday morning, bright and early, getting people re-registered for vote by mail, right? People don't even know that this happened because they're used to just getting it every, cycle for a couple of years and then having to re-register. So those 4 million people are sitting out there. I don't know what a judge will rule for those who will come to the polling places when we finally get to November who haven't re-registered and don't know that they won't be getting a ballot. Things like checking on your signature, updating your address, that shows intent to vote. So in Florida, there's a whole list of things you can do. You can also check your supervisors of elections websites and see if you want an inactive list, right? But most people don't even know that these changes occur. If we look at Tennessee, what has just happened there is lawmakers have kept now, or through legislation that is now going to be challenged, same like how it is being challenged here in Florida and in North Carolina, 500,000 felons who have been granted clemency or rights had been reinstated, who have voted in the past, are now through laws that are being created by, and again, in this case, Republican-controlled legislatures, trying to remove them with new rules to take them off the ballot. So these trends, state by state, are quite alarming, and they're not by accident. We know that the demographics are changing across our country, and we know that unfortunately there are folks within Republican circles who are saying, well, if we can't beat them with just the message on the issues and how we stand and where we stand on the issues, we're going to change the rules of the game.
Right.
And these are what we call, and the name always is out there, but we got to really understand what it means. Voter suppression tactics. Voter suppression is to keep us. If it didn't matter, why would they try so hard to make sure you don't vote? Because that same enthusiastic base, they know will vote. So if we become complacent, that's why, again, we're always talking about our level of community engagement. But there are rules that are being made that change the entire game, the way it's played. And most of our folks don't even know. So they're allowed to, do what they're doing. In Tennessee, of course, that's going to be challenged. In North Carolina, thankfully, the judge has blocked it right now, temporary stays. In Florida, SB 90 is being challenged. And in this session so far, Farajii, they're talking about in our absentee ballot law, trying to make it so that you have to prove that you're either sick. Now, this is now being discussed in committee and being proposed that you have to show why you can't show up. So you don't have a right to.
And Suzette, what state is that?
Sorry,
what state is that? I love it, Passion. You know how I feel about it.
They're discussing it right now. There are people
that
are tracking these bills, and we're like, that you now think about your elderly, think about the people who are not able to even keep up with technology, but now they want to make a new rule and pass a new law that would prohibit people from just ordering an absentee ballot or a vote by mail. They would have to have with cause, with reason, right? And then you could have a penalty not to, if you weren't absent, like say you were on vacation or you were on military service, studying abroad, something like this. You have to show physical impairment from being able to go to the poll. Are you kidding me? So the rules that we're looking at, again, that's up for discussion. That's not yet law in Florida. Let me be clear. That's up for discussion. But why would they be doing all of these, massive changes to infringe on people's abilities to get to the polls or to vote conveniently? Wouldn't we in a democracy want more people to be enfranchised with the ability to vote? But we're seeing the opposite trend, especially when it comes to legislatures that happen to be controlled by our Republican brothers and sisters. They're coming with a different agenda, and we got to wake up.
And folks are checking in the chat. Everybody is feeling the breakdown because I think you're connecting the dots for a lot of people to show that. And this is, I read this some time ago, Suzette, that this has always been the Republicans' way. Like the way the country, the culture of this country is moving, and we're much more becoming more diverse, not just in terms of demographics, in terms of attitudes around a lot of different issues. The country is moving in a different place, and Republicans, the GOP, has often tried to use voter suppression tactics and other strategies to try to limit this growth, to try to limit this change that they see in the country. And so voter suppression is one of the key tactics, and it's crazy. And I think I'm trying to go back to who asked the question, well, why don't they want us to vote? Why don't the Republicans want us to vote? Because if you vote and you are allowed to express yourself, then the Republicans are afraid that you're not going to vote for them. The GOP is afraid that, you're going to end up being on the liberal side of things, which is not always true.
If their issues could win elections, they wouldn't do this.
Right. That's what.
Right?
And
but
that's,
if they
that's
can't
been
win
the
on the
challenge for them.
issues, they're changing the board game.
They're changing the game
right in front of our eyes. Right in front of our eyes.
And look, again, this going back to that whole conversation we just had, Suzette, to the white voter. The white voter is going to either have to step up and make some and make some changes, or guess what's going to happen? We're going to continue to see these voter suppression tactics being implemented, and it's going to be a problem. People are not happy about the way this political system is, especially going from a Florida or North Carolina or Texas or Tennessee. Like, if you're going through all of this just to cast a ballot in something that we're supposed to be, quote unquote, has been bestowed on us as citizens, which is the right to vote, to exercise the right to vote, you are essentially, and this is another tactic, that you're creating a culture where people don't want to come out and vote, and the GOP, the Republicans, win from that.
and
They
control
gain from that.
everything forever and ever. If it wasn't important, if it wasn't so precious, why would they be trying to stop you at every corner? Why would they try to prevent the very thing that in one side of their mouths, oh, this is America, this is the freedom and justice for all, and we're all equal under the Constitution? Why would they create more and more laws to make it more difficult and to exclude people and take people from the voting rolls? Why? Because when you enfranchise more people, their issues may not speak to the needs of those people. And they want to, not by freedom of choice, force their agenda upon the country. You have to have the most popular ideas and the best candidates in order to win. That's how it's supposed to work. But instead, looking at the demographics and looking at how people feel, they won on the reversal of abortion. Thank you, Mr. Trump, for as what they're saying, 3 Supreme Court justices that turned it over. But now again, in the court of popular opinion across the country, everybody not feeling that.
Right.
So you've worked for it for 30 years. Now you have it. Now you trying to legislate 6 weeks less or complete bans from state to state. There are people both on the Republican and the Democratic side who are waking up like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this. This is not what I want my state to look like or my country to look like. Right. But instead, they're changing the rules. We out here playing, shuffleboard, and they playing checkers. Like we're saying that couldn't be fair. I think of the Cat Williams interview with Shannon Sharp, where he was like, "Why do liars lie? Because they lie." I'm not saying that everybody is a liar, but I'm just saying, what I'm saying? Why do people do stuff like this to disenfranchise others? Because of power, and they want to maintain control of who wins elections. If it did not matter, they would not try this terribly to keep people from the ballot box. It must be precious, because that base shows up. You can't tell MAGA nothing. MAGA gonna show up hardcore. I saw in interviews in Iowa, I'm talking about granddaddy, son, grandson, the little 7-year-old sitting up there. Who are you voting for? Trump. The little boy nodding his head. Trump. They're not playing. They're grooming also their next generation of voters in the process. What are we doing?
But here's the thing. Here's what I think we do. I think, and I agree with you. I think the silver lining of this situation is the truth, which is, regardless to all of the politics, when you look at and when we encourage people to see things the way they are, the truth of the matter is, our country getting better or worse? That's all we got to ask ourselves, right? Like, now we can, a la carte certain issues and, oh no, we're better on this one. And I'm saying to the rest of, compare America to the rest of the world. We're years behind in some cases, years behind. And when you look at when the veil and the what did they say? When the wool gets taken from, where the wool is removed from your eyes and you start to see reality, just like you said, the abortion issue, that affects every single woman in this country.
That affects women with planned pregnancies. There's so many things that can go wrong.
At the end of the day, the truth is going to come out. The truth is, and look, the truth is going to come out. And when the truth comes out, then political party allegiance starts to fall, because after a while, people will be like, just like you said, this ain't the country. This is not the state I want to live in. This is, because when you have your daughters or when you have your sons and they grow, and you can instill a whole bunch of stuff in your 7-year-old, right? But guess what? We're living in a time where children are becoming more educated than their own parents. Mm-hmm. And when that 7-year-old gets to 17, 18 years old, it's going to be a totally different America. When that young white 7-year-old is idolizing Black hip hop artists, Black sports figures, and when the reality of life starts to hit that 7-year-old, he's going to be a different he's going to be a different child growing up. This is a very serious situation. It's a very, very serious situation.
We cannot, let's hit the break. Sorry. Yeah, we cannot be apathetic and just like they're taking kids to the polls, find a child, your niece, your nephew, your baby cousin, whoever, and you take them to the polls. They are also conditioning them to realize how important that vote is to their political power. Instead, what is our culture saying? Are there some that are saying, oh, it don't even matter. Why am I going? You know, they still gonna play the Illuminati still gonna play or whatever is being said. Like, we have to think about that. Why are we saying that? And we're seeing the opposite. They don't care, you know, Nikki Haley, whoever, they're coming out for their boy. They understand what that vote means and the power of it. And are we also, as a culture, learning to embrace it or reigniting ourselves to think about it, even if we're not enthused about that top two, but we're looking at state and we're looking at local and we're showing up to the meeting. Hi, I'm your resident. I'm your voter. Because those same Republicans, there are Black people that live in those districts too. And you have to remind them, I'm here too. Good to see you. Can I make an appointment with you? Like, we cannot kind of back burner ourselves into a country that we don't recognize. And on top of what you just asked, we need to ask, who will make it better? Is it better? And then who will make it better? What kind of future is that person really going to give us? And I think that will help us at the ballot box.
Absolutely. Excellent point. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about this Texas teenager who is still going through the ordeal about his locks. And now the school superintendent has decided to take a full-page ad out in a local newspaper to defend the decision to keep the teenager suspended, and even going as far as to say that locks are un-American. Wow, okay. I guess I'm not American, folks. At this point, let's talk a little bit about that. Also, we got something for Trends, Post, and Doing the Most. Stay with us. The conversation continues right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. And make sure you join us on Roland Martin's YouTube page as we are in the chat, and Roland Martin's Facebook page as well. We'll be right back.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Let's talk about this ongoing ordeal down in the state of Texas where a teenager was suspended because of the wearing of his locks. We talked to you about this case of Daryl George, who has been repeatedly suspended despite the protections of the Crown Act, a law that bans hairstyle discrimination. Apparently, Daryl George, 17, from Barbers Hill, and I always think it's interesting, it's ironic that he's talking about locks and the place that he's from is called Barbers Hill Independent School in Mont Bellevue, Texas, is once again being thrown through the ringer. I want to bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into this because, Suzette, the next development of this story, Mr. Greg Poole, who has served as the school superintendent since 2006, he took out a full-page newspaper ad in the Houston Chronicle to show or to defend the position to keep Mr. Daryl George suspended. And Lise, take a look at that BT. This is from BT News, but look at the link, and I want to pull up that tweet to show how this ad poll came out. But Suzette, one of the big things he says, he talks about this. He said, "We have taken the highly unusual step of seeking a declaratory judgment in state district court to verify their interpretations of the Crown Act." But he went on to say, and this is what got people's just fired
blood
up.
boiling, yeah, that part, yeah.
Blood boiling. He went on to say, "Being an American requires conformity with the positive benefit of unity." There it is. Thank you so much, Lise. Let's make that bigger, please. This is, as you can see, folks, this is the page from the Houston Chronicle. Greg Poole, that's his picture in the middle. Barbers Hill student educational needs come first. And it is in this particular newspaper ad op-ed that he says, being an American requires conformity with the positive benefit of unity. Are locks un-American? What are we, Suzette, my sister? This is, and I'm asking this question because people are asking, is this un-American? Corinna, our sister, checked in on the chat. She said, yes, locks are un-American, but more importantly, it's intentional. Because if you're deciding to grow your locks, it is seen as a form of quote unquote rebellion. It is seen as a form of self-expression. I know I did that when I started my journey with my lock journey, that I was like, you know what? I want to be in a different place. I want to redefine myself. I want to, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to take myself to the next level here. But what's your take on this as Mr. Poole has laid out his decision to keep little brother Daryl George suspended over something as crazy as his own hair?
Yeah, this ongoing lawsuit is quite frustrating to those who are watching from the outside. And I will present, just as we do here fairly, the other side of the argument, which is that not only did he write this op-ed, and we can talk about that in specific, but the school board, on behalf of the superintendent, is arguing that there is no violation of the Crown Act here because this is an individual school policy where Mr. Daryl George, signed the dress code and agreed to the dress code. And in the dress code, it states that a young men's hair cannot be limited to, it doesn't define locks, but it says it can't be longer or extend below the top of their collared shirt, below their eyebrows, or below their ear when let down. Now, we've talked about this story several times here on the show, and we've seen Mr. Daryl George's and the student who has missed majority of his senior year, I believe. And it's because they continue to suspend him because his locks, even though when kind of braided up and put into a nicely coiffed style where they're up and back and off of his shoulder and away from, his eyebrows and his ears, there is still being defined as too long according to this policy. Well, it ruffled a lot of people's feathers with how this was written, this op-ed. And again, this man really believed he was so right that he put out in a newspaper a one-page, took out an ad and wrote his opinion about what needed to be done and why this was important. And the hill he chooses to die on is to call it the need for conformity. I think there are many in the African-American community who heard proximity to whiteness as conformity. And I think that's where he has kind of lost a lot of credibility to those he serves. Now, of course, I'm sure he's not the only young man in the school district with locks and sporting locks the way he does. But the fact that it seems as if this is an attack on what is a uniquely African-American expression through this particular hairstyle, that there's more than just conformity as what the school board superintendent may be seeking. And again, there are people who seem to allege that there is much more of a racial undertone to what was written in that op-ed. And I would encourage you to read it for yourself and see what you read between the lines. But it just seems very unsettling that something as simple as a young man's hairstyle, which he put pins up and nicely, again, we see him at home in some of those pictures, but as he wears it to school, it's nicely coiffed and kept up and, very close to his head. And you can't tell how long it is even when it's up there. But it has become a very lightning rod issue for those who believe that he should be able to express himself fully in a style that, again, is uniquely African-American. That's why the Crown Act itself was created, to protect any type of discrimination. That's what they're suing under. And whether it will stand up in court, we'll see. But this was this superintendent's attempt at trying to define what conformity looks like and how important conformity is. And again, there was much interpretation given to those words and how much it didn't emphasize that there is more than one way to be American and to express oneself. And that conformity, again, aligned more with the Eurocentric idea of conformity.
I agree. Cindy D, you said this isn't the military, it's individuality at question here. Absolutely. This is a young man going to school. This is a hairstyle. This is not the military. So I'll totally agree. Stephanie Humphrey Channel, you said, how can they tell how long young brother George's hair is when it is up? It is in an up style. Facts. That's facts.
Well, I can't wait till this lawsuit is actually disposed of, because every minute since December, he had another 30-day suspension. He's missing out on learning. Like, that's the whole other part of it. So I don't know how quickly in Texas this will move along. But they're claiming, again, it's a violation of the Crown Act on his side, Mr. George's side. But we'll see. We'll see if this is where the Texas superintendent will lose on that conformity argument.
Absolutely. Ming Lee, Natasha Surge, you checked in and said all this policing bodies need to stop. That's where we at right now.
Well, that's why
we're doing a lot of. What'd you say? This is that?
I said, well, that's why they made the Crown Act, because this is nothing new. I remember the video of the young man who was a wrestler, and according to the referee, he couldn't have his locks, and they said and they cut this man's locks off, like right before he went to wrestle. Other young ladies in braids. I'm watching her teammate take out the braids. I remember in high school playing sports as well. And with people with braids and different things, you would get a penalty for it, or you couldn't play with it. It affects a one group that disproportionately is looked at as being otherized more than anyone else. And that's African Americans. And our hair has been seen as a political statement more than anything else. The natural way it just grows out of our head is controversial. So I don't know where this lawsuit will end up, but there's, a lot of folks that disagree with the superintendent's conformity contention and read it more as being, this is too black, as opposed to just being like, this is about meeting the dress code of your school.
Absolutely. The ABX girl, you say we have to think twice about moving to a place where demographic percentage is under 10%. It will affect your kids while you think it's safer, but it's not.
I mean, people look at everything. I see Karina Denise in the chat. Look at the school board makeup. Texas and the big cities are very blue, are very Democratic. Houston and those, big cities. But again, you have a lot of different folks in the state legislature who would see it very differently. Yeah. So we'll let the courts decide this one.
Hey, look, we're going to take a quick pause. So I'm going to get some more feedback from y'all crew about this. And I got some other points I want to bring up as it relates to this, because this is absolutely insane that this little brother, 17 years old, has gone through this whole situation. And he's already spent 80% out of the classroom. And we're still at this place. And this is going into the month of February. Wow. We have a lot of work to do, folks. Stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Checking in with my sister Suzette Speaks and you as we continue the conversation about this latest development in the ordeal of the Texas teenager Daryl George, 17 years old, out of Barber Hills Independent School down in Montview, Texas. How he is still the center of attention. That's Brother Daryl right there. Still the center of attention simply because of how his hair is, folks. And the school superintendent, Greg Poole, who's been school superintendent for Barber Hill since 2006, he placed a full-page ad, a paid advertisement in the Houston Chronicle to defend the decision to suspend Daryl George because of his locks, making a point, and I was reading talking about COVID and talking about the importance that everybody comes to the school and all of this stuff. Then, of course, he made the very, very side-eye comment that having locks is un-American and that we really need to be in conformity. If you're talking about being an American, that means that you must learn how to conform. And this, I don't know, Suzette, but it sounds like some form of dog whistle. Some old school Texas mentality type of stuff that we see and we have heard for many, many decades in this country, that we got to learn how to conform. And the more and more I hear this type of stuff, the more and more, for me, it just empowers me to say, no, we shouldn't conform. F that. At the end of the day, that's his hair, and we shouldn't bow down to it. Now, the thing is, at this point, and I know you probably don't know the answer to this just because you're not involved in a lawsuit, but when should we say enough is enough? This mother has been fighting, the mother of Daryl George, she's been fighting. The school district, she's been fighting the school to try to get her son back into school. He missed 80% of classroom time. So at this point, what should she do? Now that this full-page ad has come out, should she keep fighting?
Well, yeah, I would wait and see what the judge decides in the lawsuit. And again, the Crown Act, thankfully, was passed in Texas to allow for this very type of discriminatory, some would call it, activity when it comes to African Americans and their styles of hair. And looking at, what he has been through, there are folks, again, with that word conformity that interpret it in many different ways. Some say conformity to what? Conformity to the school codes, conformity to a certain standard of beauty or of appearance that, again, is outside the realm of where, African-American hairstyles and expressions therein land. Again, we've heard many of us of stories where people have gone to work and people make comments about your hair, again, in its natural state, and whether it's professional or not, whether it's acceptable or not, or presentable or not. Is it something that African Americans think about, not only, in the workplace, but clearly here while going to school? And the question becomes for many of us, is it okay for an African-American child to have the same level of self-expression as any other child? And again, our hair grows uniquely through our scalp. We can't help it. This is how God made us. And is this a form of discrimination is really the question for the judge, or is it a matter of what the school board superintendent is calling conformity? And again, that's a loaded term, and depending on who you ask, you're going to get a very wide range of opinions. But he felt so strongly that he was in the right. He wrote about it. And again, I encourage anyone watching us to please read the op-ed by the superintendent there from that school district to see if you agree with the arguments he's making.
Let me ask this in terms of the Crown Act, and we're going to take another quick pause. But in terms of the Crown Act, one of the crew members said, well, what about when a white child has, red hair or green hair or blue hair? How does that fit in the larger, in this conversation? Do you think that would be that child would be singled out and ostracized and penalized for walking around with that type of hairstyle?
I think it depends on their code. I have not read their entire school code of conduct and what they say about hair color, but the hair length is what is being used to apply to Mr. George so that he is suspended. And again, there are many who agree with, I guess, the superintendent. And there are others that see it as actually discriminatory because of the style itself and how it's unique to African Americans and its meaning. And so I don't know. It is. I don't know if that the color and the difference of color also falls outside of the code of conduct. But
absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully there is a ground. There is a law to rely upon, right? So because you got to prove, what is it that he's in violation of, or the school board is in violation of. So the lawsuit is against the governor and the Board of Education there. So we'll see. I'm not sure if they'll be, victorious, but I'd say continue the fight. You've fought this far, and it'll be up to, like I said, the court.
Cindy D said, keep fighting. Nothing will change unless she does. Talking about Daryl George's mom. She's fighting for the individuality of her child and all Black folks who have endured because of their hair. And it's sad, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's sad that in a moment like this, and I'm speaking to what you just said and to what Cindy just pointed out, it's sad that when one Black person gets involved in a situation like this and becomes the center of attention, now that Black person, that Black family has to carry the burden of whole people. And part of me is like, of course, that's the double standard of living in America and being Black, that, if you open the door for one, you got to open the door for all. But of course, we know that that's not how white America operates when it comes to their issues, right? Like, it's opening the door for one, you let one through. Now this sister has to fight for all. She has to become the advocate for all Black children with locks and different hairstyles. She's got to be her son got to be the poster child for the reason why we need the Crown Act. And it's sad. I mean,
it's a heavy burden.
It's a heavy burden, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very heavy burden. Real Brooklyn checked in. Real Brooklyn, you said something that may change the game, and I wouldn't be disagreeable about this. You said, I think all his friends at school should all get their hair braided and go to school. Stuff only changes when people unite and fight BS.
Well, we love allyship, and we like when people do things. Again, I would just kind of wait and see within this. And the sad part, Farajii, is that it has affected his education so profoundly by keeping him outside of the classroom. I think that's the sad penalty of what this is causing. But again, it will end up in the court of law to decide.
Smooth Approach said, with the Bob Marley movie coming out, how many white people start trying to lock up?
We don't talk about that movie. I can't wait to see this movie because I'm not sure about it. It looks weird. I don't know. I'm not sure about it. I don't know. It might be amazing. I'm gonna give it a chance. But the previews already, I'm like,
I think it was so funny because just before the show, me and at least we were talking about it, and I was like, that is I'm not to say Bob Marley is a handsome guy, but this guy is like supermodel handsome.
We gotta take a break, Farajii. We gotta take a break. We gotta take a break. No, I don't know. I'll give it a try.
Oh man! All right, we gotta take a break. When we come up, trends, posts, and doing the most. Stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
All right, folks, it is time for trends, posts, and doing the most. This is an opportunity where we talk about some of the trending topics that are going viral right now. Suzette had to remind me about this story, folks.
Brick. Big brick. There's a Jamaican song that has brick on brick. Sorry. I thought about the song. Sorry, I don't know the song.
You know what? I'm not dealing with you right now. We want to talk about Houston's brick lady. Y'all remember the brick lady? Y'all remember this sister who claimed that somebody hit her with a brick in front of all these group of black men and no one came to her defense. And Lisa, I wanted you to pull up her picture. Let's pull up the picture of her. Well, that was the picture I wanted. This is her now. That is her mugshot, folks.
Goodness.
Y'all remember her? Yeah, this is the brick lady, Rhoda Osmond. She catapulted to viral fame after she had this very, very horrific story of someone hitting her with a brick outside of a club. And at first we were like, oh my gosh, y'all remember we talked about this. Then many people were like, wait a minute.
The fact that she kept saying no black man came to her rescue was very, very telling. And made some of us doubt it from then. Was like, wait a minute, that's weird. No
black man saw a black woman getting hit.
No police
and I remember no police report. No, it's all right. I mean, I just remember when people it started this whole controversy about protecting black women, and even I was on the train. I'm gonna admit, I was like, damn, if somebody hit a sister with a brick, then we should have a conversation about protecting black women. Well, I wanted to give my sister the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
She has officially been charged with felony theft by deception. She had created a GoFundMe campaign that garnered $40,000. As a result of that, she created the story. It was a lie. And now she has been charged with fraud as a result of that.
So to be a little balanced, I've seen comments she's made on Shade Room underneath this post with her mugshot saying she's looking forward to her day in court and whatnot. And I think it presumes that she's, probably going to plead that she didn't do anything. I think she has been released on bond, but it is horrific if the allegations are proven, false, and it looks by all accounts that they are. What she did was, just hurtful is the word I want to use, but it's beyond hurtful.
It's beyond hurtful.
Again, the cause of women who are actually the sufferers of violence, and then also to men, black men, whose reputation also took a hit because of this fabricated, alleged story. So it is damaging on both ends to both women and men. But it looks like, based on what the filing says, that, you know, she remember that she came to the limelight outside of the club with the swollen face, and people said it was injected, or I don't know how she ended up, you know, putting out that scene as coordinated as it looked. Because again, people were still, even under the comments of you know, popular news sites and gossip sites, like, how did her face get swollen in? If this was a lie, you know, people still confused as to how she put this whole thing together. But no, the police there are not confused, and they're looking at, you know, again, the charges are quite severe, accusing her of fabricating significant elements of the story. She presented to police. The incident, you know, was back in September, and again, claimed assault, and it didn't, you know, include any footage of the alleged assault. And there was so much debate online. People were confused. And if you did believe her, I'm not knocking you, but if you didn't, you know, we kind of felt like something was wrong with the story. But yeah, there was a lot of credibility questions around this story. But according to the charging documents, the police said reported that she was hit in the face with a brick. Also claimed to narrowly escape a kidnapping attempt by a supposed Uber driver. However, a subsequent review of the local surveillance footage by a detective painted a different picture. In the video, Osmond is seen in the company of a friend and the individual she later pointed to as her assailant. The video reportedly depicts Osmond slapping the individual, who retaliates by striking her back, wielding a water bottle in his hand. A friend who was with Osmond on that night of the incident reportedly told police that she did not believe Osmond was hit with a brick. Despite these inconsistencies, the initial social media post led to the GoFundMe. That's how she got caught up. That garnered, like you said, 42,000 at least. The crowdfunding page has been deactivated, thank goodness. And apparently, this is what the key is. This isn't the first time that Miss Osmond has allegedly employed such tactics. In 2020, she reportedly created another GoFundMe page claiming that she was assaulted by a private security guard in Minneapolis, a claim disputed by a friend who previously stayed with Osmond, et cetera, et cetera. So that's coming from Houston News, KPRC. But yeah, it's frightening, and it's really important that we highlight her again, because it went so viral that people believed it, that we need to set the record straight, because it did a lot of damage.
It did a lot of damage to the reputation, to the word of Black women. It did a lot of damage to the reputation and to the care of Black men. I mean, it was just a lot of damage done. And because she did this before with the security guard back in 2020, and I'm wondering at this point, this sister needs mental health help, right? Because we're seeing this, and I don't know whether this is just because of the current culture where everybody's looking for a come up at whatever expense. People just use the culture and just say, all right, I'm gonna just do me. And is this just simply about money? What, you know,
trust. People
public
want to help
trust,
people,
right,
and
right.
people, you know, want to believe people will do the right thing. But I do think it's like it's symbolic of the culture as a whole, as we've been talking about politics and how people just make up stuff, right? And people just say stuff, and people are, like, again, chaotic in what they're presenting to the American people. I think what she's doing or has done is reflective of, you know, again, this anything goes, search for fame, clickbait, you know, I want what I want, and I'm going to utilize, you know, public space, you know, social media to do it. And again, I think this was right on the heels of when we were dealing with Carly Russell, and some others that, again, for Black women, we were just like, we need to have better, you know, representation, because things actually do happen to many of us. And unfortunately, because these blew up so much, the public, you know, outcry was just like, look at them and how badly they're behaving. And, you know, they got the whole country to pay attention, only to be, you know, fabricating allegedly what happened. So it was it's very scary, but it's good to see that it seems like, you know, some accountability has been presented to her. And again, she will get her day in court, and we'll see if the evidence continues.
She'll lose. Listen,
they wouldn't have brought it. They wouldn't have brought it had they not thought that there was something.
Right. I get it. I get it. I definitely get it. And she should suffer the consequences of it because it was just too much at stake. It was just too much at stake. And the last thing Black women and Black men need is more blame for something that we didn't do.
Yes, again, I think this is a very troubled individual based on.
Yeah.
I don't know her personally. I'm not making any kind of claim about her mental health, but if this seems to be like a pattern, there definitely more intervention needs to be done to help get that person what they need.
Absolutely. All right, let's switch gears. Let's talk about a woman that is doing some real stuff. Suzette Speaks. Talk to us about your event that's coming up.
Real quick, you can find it on Eventbrite. I've been doing a series of social networking events called Politicking Networking Social here in South Florida. We've been switching up locations, and tomorrow we'll be actually up in Fort Lauderdale. So if you're around, we're bringing political leaders, business leaders, just community leaders at large to come in and rub shoulders. I'm going to have a presentation by a supervisor of elections, again, talking about 10 minutes, key issues, the vote by mail re-registration that needs to happen en masse, because the most reliable voters are those who vote by mail, right? Anything can happen on election day. People forget, people can't get off work. All this stuff can happen. So we want to encourage people from the comfort of their home to order their vote by mail. Check your registration status on your supervisor of elections for your county where you live. Check if you think you're still registered, double check, because like I said, 4 million plus got wiped off of the vote by mail rolls and onto inactive status. If you have not shown intent to vote, that's if you missed 2 presidential elections back to back. If you haven't, check your signature or change your address or shown some sort of intent to vote. I want to get the word out. So this is a mixture of social networking and of course, a little bit of community engagement when it comes to making sure people are ready to vote, because we know it's very important. So if you're out, in the Fort Lauderdale area tomorrow evening, come join us. And you can find it. I have flyers all over my pages. Just follow me at Suzette Speaks on all platforms.
There it is right there. Suzette Speaks, always putting in that work, always representing for the culture. Suzette, I can't thank you enough. I mean, your hairs was the talk of the chat a little bit.
We popping ready for the social tomorrow, Friday.
People like, look at Suzette. All right, there it is.
Thank you. February, we're going to be celebrating Black men of the movement. I can't wait. 10 outstanding Black men. We're doing a follow-up to this event tomorrow, but that one will be speakers, the founder of Black Men in Tech, founder of several other companies, health, mental wellness, entrepreneurship, and politics. You know it. It's going to be February 7th, so look out for that coming up too.
Can I say Suzette is always doing it for the culture? She's always doing it for the culture. So Suzette, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for all the work you do. And most importantly, thank you for being on the show and on the network. Love it.
Thank you, Farajii. I appreciate the team. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity. See you next week.
Absolutely. See you next week. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure you continue to do support us here at Black Star Network. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media and put something in the bucket for us and kick off 2024 in the right manner, in the right spirit. So again, to go to our website today. Also follow me on Instagram. You can follow me at The Real Farajii on Instagram, at Farajii on Twitter, Farajii Muhammad on Facebook. I would love to connect with y'all. And let's continue to follow Roland Martin on all of his social media platforms. And of course, make sure y'all get notifications of the show and on the network here on YouTube and on Facebook. Make sure you check us out on Amazon platforms and on Freevee and Plex TV. And just continue to follow us and be a part of this process that we call a digital movement that we are embarked upon. So thank you. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m., Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow. I got some great stories for us tomorrow. Y'all going to be, we're going to have a fun time tomorrow. Got my sister Trinette Collier checking in. Get my brother Sinead Wakofor in. And of course, I want to have you joining us. So make sure y'all tune into the show tomorrow right here, only here, exclusively here. We're on the Black Star Network. You're tuned into the culture. Look forward to chatting with you tomorrow for another exciting edition. Have a great afternoon, great evening. Talk to you soon. Peace.